All right, good evening, everybody. It is just after 9 o'clock, and we're going to get started here in just a minute. Let a few people join on here, and then we'll get started. And got a couple of panelists with us tonight. We'll introduce them in just a second, but I know that we'll start off by asking John and Daniel what you had for lunch today. Anything interesting, John?
I had a Domino's pasta today. It was a stay in the office kind of day.
Oh, from former Domino's Pizza, where they now have everything, including pizza.
That's right, just Domino's.
Have you had the what is it? The brownie thing they make?
No, the lava cake is almost too much. And kudos, by the way, Daniel, I just noticed that. Kudos to Woody Page Jr. there with the "Snow My God" behind it.
And how about you, Daniel? Besides writing on your chalkboard today with your weather baby there, what have you been doing today?
I'll tell you what, it's great to be here on Tigers tonight. I mean, the went hang out. I had homemade soup for lunch today, so it was a good day.
Soup. Excellent. I think I fit in a piece of pizza somewhere around lunchtime today. That was it was a busy day.
Yeah, it was 1:30 for me today.
Yeah, so welcome to this time of year, and welcome to all of those who are joining tonight. You don't want to hear us babble. You want to hear about what the weather's going to be doing, so we're going to get right into it. I am MemphisWeather.net meteorologist Eric Procius. Glad to have you with us tonight, and decided to put this together this evening to kind of give a little bit of a little bit broader description, I guess, and detail to the potential event we've got coming in. I almost hesitate to call it a potential event right now. We have an event coming on Friday. What exactly is going to happen maybe is the potential, but it does look like we're going to be facing our first fairly significant winter weather event of the winter of this 2015-16 winter, and it's just about on time actually too. If you go back and review kind of what we had in our winter outlook that was posted in early mid-November, and what a fair number of others were saying about this winter. We talked about the fact that November and December, especially with the El Nino driving this, would tend to be warm and wet, and boy, did we finish warm and wet to end 2015. In fact, as you know, the severe weather, the tornadoes a couple days before Christmas in North Mississippi, and finished out in the top 5 Memphis history for the top 5 warmest November and December both. And then we described how it would likely turn around the first of the year and we would head towards a cold pattern, and it seems like we have done that. So once you get the cold in place, then you get the systems rolling through that might normally just produce some rain, and you get the potential, if those things line up, to get a snow event. First one of those was this morning with a little bit of freezing rain, just about where we described it yesterday, in fact. The models did a really nice job of handling where the freezing line was going to be this morning. We saw some very light icing here on the north side of Bartlett, where I am this morning. Tipton County got a fair amount of freezing rain up there as well. Caused some impacts, some icy streets and points north of there. I saw some pictures from Dyersburg. There was snow up across the northern tier of West Tennessee and into the Missouri Boot Heel. So we got lucky here, right here directly in the metro, I think, out of this one this morning. But now we're looking ahead to the next event, which comes up on Friday, and I'll take just a minute here before we get any further to introduce those who are joining me tonight on the panel. John Maddox is no stranger to our MWN Hangouts, and welcome John back tonight.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you having me again.
And alongside John, Daniel Gafford, who is a fellow Bartlettonian here, and we like to go back and forth and kind of figure out, review models and so forth as the data comes in, and Daniel's been on with us. It's been a few Hangouts, but he's been on with us before, and welcome back to Daniel.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I like to poke in every now and then when there's snow.
Yeah, I think you skip the severe weather ones and just go straight for the snow. That's usually the way it works.
Well, you know, I know what the people want.
There you go. Yeah, just show up when it's convenient. And he's got a couple of weather babies at home too, and I know they're looking forward to a snow day perhaps on Friday. Get out there and all bundled up, and then say, "Hey, Daddy, I gotta go to the bathroom," right before they go outside. Right? I've been there.
You have no idea.
Oh, I do. Yes, I got a couple of girls too.
We have bought carrots for the snowman's nose.
So you're a step ahead of me.
We're prepared.
There's your first clue for everybody that's watching. Daniel has bought his carrots for the snowman's nose. So if you haven't been to the store to get your carrots, that's a joke that goes with that. I won't tell it tonight. Anyway, it's probably more appropriate for kindergartners and first graders. Let's get right into it. I'm going to screen share here. Just a second to bring this up. And it's showing me nothing available to screen share. That is fabulous. Let's try this again. Sorry, technical difficulties. Haven't had this problem before.
The beauty of live internet broadcasting.
Oh yeah, really. It says that there is 0 for me available to share. Darn it. Then let me do this. I'm going to send this over to John. John, would you click the link there and see if you can share that? And I'm going to keep working here. What's going on? But my screen share says you have nothing to share. So that about does it for tonight. And all right,
there we go.
Seeing that. Yeah, it's a little small, but it'll work. All right, so if you'll just step back to about frame number 2 there for me. Is there any way that you can zoom in that browser a little bit, maybe?
Let's see. Hold on 1 second here.
Stand by, please. Oh, it zoomed this Java box, but not the...
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, that's all right. Just tab over there to the second frame. I think you've actually turned off the second frame by clicking it. It's red, so you're going to want to click it again to turn it back on. The red box. There you go, and step back. Okay, apologize for the smallness of this, but here's the basic setup that we have going into tonight. So basically low pressure system forming out over West Texas. That is going to be the system responsible for the event that moves through here on Friday. Warm front drape down to our south, and basically we're going to be seeing during the nighttime hours that staying down to our south. You could advance at 1 frame there. That warm front staying to our south. We expecting mainly dry night tonight. Temperatures will be hovering right around freezing during the overnight hours, and now he's got the 6 a.m. frame up there. So that low pressure system moved out of West Texas over to about the Dallas area by tomorrow morning. And you'll see the stationary front starting to lift north a little bit, and some precipitation breaking out on the north side of that. We will start to see some light precipitation around the area tomorrow morning. Could be early, maybe 6 to 8 a.m. or so in the metro. And up to our north and northeast Arkansas, they've actually issued a winter weather advisory for that area for later tonight because the temperature's a little bit colder up there. So places up around Jonesboro down towards Little Rock. I'm not sure if Little Rock is in the advisory, but I do know up to our north is in the advisory as some of that light precip moves in tonight. Their temperatures could be just at or below freezing, so another light freezing rain event possible again tonight up in northeast Arkansas. But again, it looks like temperatures by the time that gets here, we should see a slow rise, probably to the 33, 34 degree range by about the time the precip starts. Let's advance that 1 more frame there, John. And so as we go into the day tomorrow, that low is moving down, starting to still pretty weak, but it's over in eastern Texas, and this is valid, I think, at 18Z tomorrow. So this is midday tomorrow. See, the rain is starting to break out ahead of that, so we're starting to get southerly air aloft that's riding over that front out of the Gulf of Mexico and causing that precipitation to break out over the southeastern U.S. So I expect that we'll see rain chances increase as we go through the day tomorrow. Temperatures remain warm. I think it's going to be an all-rain event during the day tomorrow. We should be rising into the upper 30s or so by that time. Let's step it forward 1 more. And this gets us to, I believe, 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. And so the low pressure system now is over northern Louisiana, and it is starting to develop. You'll see some more concentric circles around it, the darker circles, which indicate those are the isobars, which basically means the more of those you have, the stronger that low pressure system is. And so this is by 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. We're seeing the precipitation breaking out even more steadily up to the north. And in fact, out ahead of the low, south of that warm front, there is an area of red there, and that's a potential area of strong to even a few severe thunderstorms over central southern Mississippi. It's going to move into western Alabama, southeastern Louisiana. So that area south of the warm front ahead of the low is going to be an area where we could see the potential for maybe some damaging winds and isolated tornado possible as we head into the evening hours tomorrow night. Well to our south, we're in the rain area, and you also see up to the north some of that mixed precipitation starting to mix in over northern Arkansas off to our west. Let's step that forward one more time, and we should be at, I believe, 6 a.m. Friday morning. So this is the time period now that we start to get into our winter weather event. You see the low pressure system that the Weather Service has drawn here, basically over kind of to the east of Starkville, along the Mississippi-Alabama state line. Columbus, Mississippi, good reference point down there, about in that area. And you'll see around the back side of that low pressure system that we have the snow that is starting to form, wrapping around that low pressure system. And that this particular graphic has that over the Memphis metro by 6 a.m. on Friday morning. Timing is still a little bit in question here. Whether we'll be right smack in the middle of it by then, I'm not sure, but I do believe that we will start to see a changeover by around dawn Friday morning from rain to a mixed precipitation, maybe a little sleet, and then to snow fairly quickly after that. I would expect by 8 or 9 o'clock or so, if this holds, that we'll be in an all-snow scenario here in the metro. The other thing to consider with in the position of this low right here is basically around the back side of that low we're going to have an upper level disturbance, or kind of a piece of energy there that rotates in behind that low at about 18,000 feet or so. That's basically where we are looking for these what are called vorticity maximums, but they're basically upper level energy that kind of trails behind these things usually, and that is going to be where the track of that upper level low goes, is usually where the heavier snow falls, and it looks like that it might take a track fairly close to the metro. But that is something that is still to be determined, and is part of the reason that some of the models are differing on snowfall totals, is exactly where the track of that goes. Let's advance it out to another frame here, John. This is also the system that as we move into the early part of the weekend, it is going to move to the east, develop stronger, and you'll see that this is by the end of the day Friday, we're seeing the back edge of the snowfall exiting the Memphis area. So we could see on and off light snow during the afternoon to flurries Friday afternoon. But this system is going to really start to wind up on the east coast and become a nor'easter that is going to bring significant impacts. In fact, probably one of the bigger storms they've had in quite some time along the East Coast, especially from the Mid-Atlantic up through D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and on towards Boston. Let's advance this one more frame to Saturday morning, just so you can get an idea of how this thing wraps up. It does not have the precipitation on here, but that low has rapidly deepened, very strong, right off the North Carolina coastline by 6 a.m. Saturday morning. And behind that, right, you'll see all of those concentric circles around the low. That is the wind field around that low, and so it's a very large wind field, and it is very strong winds. This is very, very likely going to be blizzard conditions for areas from, say, the central portion of Virginia up through D.C., Philadelphia, and into the New York City area. So a significant event. In fact, we're talking about maybe a couple of feet of snow late Friday through early Sunday up there for the Northeast. So definitely something that is going to not only be impactful here, but moving across the Southeast. I know Atlanta is looking for the potential for either a mix or maybe some snow there as well, and then into the Northeast U.S. Really, really big issue going up that direction. So let's move on. John, do you have this evening's NAM model up there on Pivotal Weather? If we can go that direction.
Yeah, I've got the NAM. What do you want?
Yeah, let's go the 0Z NAM, and if you would do the 6-hourly snowfall totals, starting with the that'll work.
30.
And then back that up to 24, 30. So we have. So this is looking at this evening's NAM run. Now, just to give you an idea, we're going to look at a couple of different, or at least this particular model. But the main issue that we're having with consistency in the models right now is going to be exactly where this heavier snow band kind of sets up. And again, that's going to depend on the track of that upper level low, and what I referred to in my blog earlier today as a deformation zone, which is basically on the back side of that low pressure system, the north and northwest side of the low pressure system, where the warm moist air wraps around the low and encounters the cold air. You basically get an area where heavy snow could occur. And so we are looking at a 6-hour snowfall total valid between 6 p.m. tomorrow night and midnight. And you see that from the NAM model, it is showing that snow actually starting to pick up over west central Arkansas during the evening hours tomorrow night. Now, I am going to tell you that this model that we're looking at now is one of the further west with the snowfall totals that we've seen so far. And so don't know that this is exactly how it's going to pan out, but we'll run through this one just to kind of give you an idea. Let's step forward to 36 there, John. So we're looking at the, we'll be going here to the midnight to 6 a.m. time frame. Right there you go. And so you can see how the snow is shifting to the east as the low moves to the east. And yeah, there you go, scroll up just a little bit. So good amount of snow back over like the Little Rock area. It's showing anywhere from 5 to 6 inches perhaps in the Little Rock area. I think that's the first model that I've seen really paint that much back to our west. So don't know that that's quite going to come out that way. But that's basically where the snow is between midnight and 6 a.m. It's starting to move across the Mississippi River, especially up to the north. So at this point, we're expecting the low pressure system itself, if you point out, John, to be, you know, in the Columbus-Starkville area along the Mississippi-Alabama line. So about where he's got his cursor is where the low is, and the deformation zone, or the area where the highest snowfall totals typically occur, are north and west of that low by, say, 100 to 150 miles, and that's exactly where this is painting it. And we usually only see those stronger deformation zones with the stronger low pressure systems, which this one is rapidly deepening as it moves across Mississippi during the overnight hours. Okay, let's go 12 to 18Z, John, the 42-hour, and take a look at what it's got for the morning hours Friday. And there we go. This is a 6-hour total from 6 a.m. to noon Friday, and it looks like max totals are between, say, Memphis and Selmer, and that's in the 3 to 4 inch range. Memphis, I think, is that, say, 2.4 maybe over the Memphis area? I think that's what it's got, about
3.4.
3.4. Okay, so it's got 3.4 over Shelby County, 2.8 on the eastern side of that. So that's actually probably closer to 5 inches between there in Fayette County down into Marshall County. Now, do not focus again on, you know, we're showing you what this model has, but I wouldn't say focus on what county is getting how much. This is showing you potential snowfall out of this deformation zone if it lines up and moves across the area. So this would be a fairly significant amount of snow if we get 3 to 4 inches over that 6-hour period. You could see 1 inch per hour type of rates for a couple of hours in there. And the other thing to point out here is that not only will we have this snow falling, and temperatures now during this time frame would be falling from 32 down into the upper 20s, but we're going to have wind that is going to be wrapping around that low pressure system and very, very brisk. In fact, wouldn't be surprised to see a wind advisory at all with this event. Winds gusting 30 to maybe 40 miles an hour. So you're going to have blowing snow as well, reduced visibilities. Even though it's going to be a fairly normal southern snow, fairly wet, with that kind of wind, it is going to be blowing around, and reduced visibilities will be a problem. And clearing this off of streets and so forth is going to be just about next to impossible with the type of equipment that we've got around here, if this pans out. So let's step forward one more 6-hour period. Look at the afternoon hours. So we know this model is giving us somewhere around say 2 to 5 inches, depending on where you are in the metro. And scroll that down, there we go. And basically during the afternoon now, it's saying that the snow is pretty much over, just a little bit left over on the eastern side of the metro. Could see some flurries during the afternoon. But that's basically your snowfall total for the event, is what we just looked at. So the timing for the heaviest snow, if we get the heavy snow, is going to be most likely in the morning between 6 a.m. and noon. And as we put in our blog today, certainly not out of the realm of possibility to get as much as, say, 4 inches in spots. And I think areas to our east, looking at all the other models that we've looked at today, the newer stuff that's come in, my personal thought on this is that heavier snow, the heaviest totals in our area, are going to set up over West Tennessee, east of the metro. So basically the areas that are kind of highlighted right there from, say, up near Paris down through Jackson down to the Selmer, Corinth areas. Kind of right in that zone, I think, is where we could see the highest potentials, and some of those areas could see a good 6 inches or so. Let's look at the total snowfall out of the NAM here. This is through Friday evening, and I think that it paints. Yeah, it kind of paints that same area of West Tennessee. It's got it a little bit further back to the west, including some of the metro, but that kind of gives you an idea. And the area over Arkansas, I really have some questions about right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple inches over there, but I'm not sure we're going to see those kind of totals out to the west. Just for comparison's sake, I would like to, if you would, show me that same, if you can just switch models, keep that graphic up, John, just go to the 18Z GFS if you would. And just to give you an idea of why we're still struggling some with the amount of snow we might get, this should be the same exact graphic, valid at the same time, but this is from the other American model that we use, the GFS, and it's showing totals through Friday evening, and you'll see that in the Memphis area, there, it basically has a 2/10 of an inch. And all of the heavy snow in the area where I expect that we'll see the heavy snow, 4 to 6 inches perhaps, out over western Tennessee. So, and it's also got, of course, another kind of deformation zone that is set up as the snow starts earlier in the day down there to the south, from, say, Tunica south through the Mississippi Delta. So a lot of things still have to come together. I hope that over the next 24 hours some of these differences will start to iron themselves out. Potential exists for definitely up to 3 to 4 inches of snow in the metro. We could see, on the low end, maybe an inch. And so those are some of the things that we're looking at here. So I want to open it up to you guys for comment. I'll also say right now that if anybody has any questions, if you'd like to send us those questions either on Twitter using the WXChat hashtag, or you can send them straight to me at MemphisWeather1 on Twitter. We also have a Google Hangout page that you can drop them on, or if you're watching on the MemphisWeather.net Hangout page, you can put in your questions there and we'll take them there as well. Comments or questions or thoughts there, gentlemen?
Well, like always, for Memphis, it's the track of the low pressure and the energy. I mean, it seems like we talk about it all the time, but where that goes, like you said, is where the heaviest snow sets up. And we can't know that. What is it? Where are we now? A day and a half, 2 days out. I mean, we can't even know 12 hours out where that's going to be. So it's a tough forecast for Friday, I'd say.
And one other thing I think that will probably end up affecting totals a little bit will be we look to probably get a pretty good amount of rain on Thursday. I think we'll have some good standing water around on Thursday, and that'll limit snow accumulations a little bit. But the thing is that since we don't get snow very often, people don't realize a couple things about snow. Is number one, snowfall rates can often overcome anything like that. If it snows hard enough, it'll pile up regardless, and you don't even have to be below freezing for snow to start to pile up, especially if you're, if Eric's right about, if we get up around 1 inch an hour, and people say, well, that's not really that big of a deal. That's not that much snow. Well, that's a lot of snow. I mean, that's really, really heavy snow. I mean, when you get up around 1 inch an hour, that's, especially when you're talking about 25, 30 mile an hour wind on top of that, I mean, that's going to cause some serious visibility issues.
Yeah, and there was a question that came in here about sleet and snow ratios, freezing rain ratios, as far as how much liquid to snow equivalent we get. So that's one of the things we look at is, these models will print out snow totals, but what we really, when we're putting the forecast together, look at is what is the amount of liquid precipitation, and then convert that over based on the type of precipitation that's going to occur. It does look like our snow ratios on this event are going to be fairly typical for this part of the country, which is around 8-to-1 to 10-to-1, meaning if we get 1/10 of an inch of liquid or melted precipitation, it would be an inch of snow. The amount of liquid between, say, after 6 a.m. Friday morning appears to be somewhere in the 0.3 to 0.5 liquid amounts. So if you multiply that by 10 for a rough estimate, that's 3 to 5 inches of snow. Now, is it all going to fall as snow? Perhaps not, but by that 6 a.m. time frame, I think we'll start to change over. Sleet generally is a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio, I believe. So 1/10 of an inch of liquid would be about 1/4 of an inch of sleet, somewhere in there, if you're wondering how those ratios work. So that's where we get that information from. One other thought here, as John mentioned, a lot of rain coming in tomorrow, and this is an event where rain is going to fall throughout the night on Thursday and then change over to snow. And so basically what we're going to end up with is standing water in places, especially drainage areas and so forth, and then temperatures falling below freezing as perhaps a layer of sleet comes down and then snow on top of that. So we're basically baking a cake here that has ice on the bottom, because you're going to be getting temperatures dropping down 27, 28 degrees by mid-afternoon, probably Friday afternoon. So you have a layer of ice underneath, maybe a couple of inches of snow on top of that. So not only will you have potential for snow on the ground, but you're going to have a layer of ice, I think, down underneath that. And that really is going to be that really could cause some problems, especially if we get that kind of thing going on the roadways. And if the snow's coming down an inch an hour, the roadways are going to whiten up very quickly. We're not talking about highs higher than about 40 tomorrow. We've been at or below freezing for a couple of days. The ground temperatures are cold, so this is going to stick when it comes. So I was looking to see if we had other questions here. A question about Atoka, and Atoka we consider part of our metro area, so we cover an 8-county metro here with MemphisWeather.net from Tipton County down to Tate County, Crittenden over to Fayette, and so Atoka, Millington. Right now, we're not pinpointing exact totals for anybody because we've just got enough differences in the models that we need to just talk about potential impact at this point, and so. If we get 2 inches, if we get 4 inches, if we get 5 inches, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. We're going to have problems with roadways. We're going to have, with the wind blowing the way it is. The Weather Service has already talked about this, but with the wind blowing the way it is and the snow coming down that hard, we could potentially see power outages as well. That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. So you get 30-mile-an-hour winds blowing freezing lines around, and then throw a little snow on those. You're adding weight to those, and we could definitely see some scattered power outages as well.
So it could.
Go ahead.
So it could be maybe for a few minutes blizzard conditions Friday.
Well, yes. Now, the technical definition of a blizzard is that you have to have 3 hours of 35-mile-an-hour sustained winds. And so, while I don't think that we'll probably get to that criteria, could we get a brief period, 5-10 minutes to an hour, perhaps, of quote blizzard-like conditions? Yes. That will not necessarily generate a blizzard warning. I think a winter storm warning is what we're going to expect as we go. Probably into the early morning hours. The Weather Service puts out a complete forecast update around 4 a.m. I expect that we will see winter storm warnings hoisted at that point. Those are basically issued about 24 hours in advance of the storm, and at that point they will provide their estimates on snow totals in particular areas then as well.
I also saw that some of the Weather Service offices are launching special weather balloons, I think starting tomorrow, maybe around noon. And so as we get into tomorrow evening, the models, in theory, should have a better grasp of the situation in the atmosphere and hopefully have more clarity by then as well.
Yeah, exactly. John?
Yeah, that's something to remember, that people, when we talked a couple weeks ago about the height casting and hosting these snow models or snow maps of things 300 hours out. The energy for this storm just got on shore. Today just came into kind of
Yeah,
focus where the models
yesterday. Yep.
sampled it. Today. So that's the other thing is you got to let the models have to actually be able to see the storm. And yeah, this is going to be a big deal for us, but this is going to be a huge deal for folks to the east and northeast of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you would, John, can you show that maybe the national accumulated snowfall total from either one of those? The GFS is probably what you've got up. That'll be fine. I want to take a quick look at travel from here. If you're headed from Memphis or into Memphis from varying areas around the region, what Friday looks like. I will tell you that basically, from looking at the graphics we were looking at before, first of all, in the local area, if we get the amount of snow that is the potential, then travel around here is going to be treacherous. We will highly recommend that you stay off of the roads on Friday. Certainly, if we're getting a forecast of a couple of inches of snow, I would expect the schools to be closed and so forth, but that'll be determined perhaps as late as Friday morning, unless there's a fairly certain forecast tomorrow night. But points basically east and west of here and north, so unless you're headed south, I think there could be travel issues, and especially going to the east, is where that deformation zone is going to be moving, so that would have the most potential for the heavier snow. And I just realized I had the screen frozen on you for a while there, John. My bad.
That's all right.
I'm sitting here talking and looking at you, looking around. Okay, here we go. So this is through when? What are we looking at here? Oh, you clicked the map. So let's examine the sounding. No, we won't get into soundings tonight. This is basically through the weekend system, and this is the potential snowfall totals. So you can see the heaviest amounts, and this appears to be that NAM model. Is that right? Yeah, this is the NAM. Is going to be from the Ohio River eastward into the mid-Atlantic, and this is just snow, so the areas down kind of just to the southern edge of where the snow bands are, there's going to be some ice in there as well. North Carolina up into Virginia, heaviest snowfall totals, and those are probably in the neighborhood of 18 to 24 inches up there, west of D.C. through the Philadelphia area, and right up into the New York City metro, very high totals up there in New Jersey. So travel in and out of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, especially Friday night into Saturday, going to be a real issue. As far as the airport and air travel is concerned, especially here in the metro for the Memphis airport, I'll just tell you that if you have travel plans on Friday, you need to check with your airline before you head to the airport, or at least look online and see what it says about your flight. If the inbound flight is canceled, you're not getting out of here. However, I will also say that the airlines keep safety for the passenger as their #1 priority, and so if they think that it's going to be an issue to travel in and out of this type of an event, they'll proactively cancel or they'll delay or whatever. So let the airline make those calls. The airport actually has as much, if not more, equipment for clearing concrete than the city of Memphis does, and they've only got about 8 miles worth of concrete over there between the 4 runways, so they can keep a couple of those runways typically open pretty well, cleared off during these types of events. Now the blowing snow is going to complicate that a little bit, but they are equipped to handle this type of event, even if the rest of us aren't. So anyway, check your airline Friday morning if you're going to be traveling out. Other question I see that comes in: when will the prediction be fairly certain? In other words, when can I start planning my snow day? From I think it's Ann Carson. When will the totals be fairly certain? Well, we would hope that these model runs, especially going into the overnight into tomorrow, are going to start to congeal on kind of a solution. But these are some crazy events when you get things like this going, and the dynamics in the atmosphere, even 12 hours out can sometimes be very difficult to pinpoint exactly where the heaviest snow bands are going to be set up and so forth. So as far as planning your snow day, I think we should have a fairly good idea on rough totals, or at least a concise range, say 2 to 4 inches, or 1 to 3, or whatever it ends up being, 3 to 5. I don't know. Probably by tomorrow night, and we'll have we'll actually be probably posting those in the MWN forecast tomorrow morning. First guess totals will go into the forecast tomorrow morning, but highly subject to change. Stay tuned, and we'll keep you updated. But I would say, as it falls, we'll know better where it's going to fall. That's the best thing we can say down here in the south.
Yeah, I was gonna say, check with us about noon on Friday, and we'll have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen.
The banding snow is sometimes some of the more difficult. I mean, it's sometimes you can get the general amounts, fairly decent 24 hours out. A range, say from 1 to 3, 2 to 4, whatever. But if somebody picks up 6 inches over a half a county area, that is not going to be easily forecast until it happens. Because sometimes you just get these small mesoscale features. They're just things that cannot be predicted by these larger scale models, exactly where these heavier bands might set up, or heaven forbid we get a little thunder snow or something like that. If we start getting 1-inch totals, we'll get a little lift in the atmosphere underneath this deformation zone, and that would definitely mean higher totals in very localized areas. So somebody may get lucky. Who knows? Maybe it'll be where Jim Cantori is, and we know he likes thunder snow. But I don't know where he's going to be. But anyway, any other questions out there that anybody wants to throw at us? Let's send them to WX Chat or tag me. I have a question from the Hangout chat here that says, historically, what do low pressure systems that take a similar track tend to do as far as snowfall totals go in the Memphis area? So the track of this low pressure system is actually fairly ideal for accumulating snow. If they go farther south down along the Gulf Coast, we're kind of on the northern edge of the precipitation, and amounts tend to be a little lighter. If they track right over us, then we usually end up with a warmer situation, and we end up getting rain. As I mentioned earlier, that deformation zone usually sets up, say, 100 to 200 miles northwest of the low pressure system itself, and it also follows the track of the upper level low. And that's kind of what the NAM was showing for us on Friday. So if that pans out, we would kind of be in that sweet spot for the potential of heavier snow. Let's see. If models are all over the place predicting snow for the Memphis region, then why 3 days out are 2 to 3 feet in blizzard conditions being widely talked about now? Models are actually doing better with the storm that far out as compared to 36 hours out. Well, first I'll say that we are not 2 to 3 days out at this point. I was not saying these kind of things a day and a half or 2 days ago. We're basically 36 hours out from being in the potential for heaviest snow. And so we definitely want to make sure that people have the opportunity to get prepared. And can't wait until tomorrow night and say, okay, let's go ahead and get prepared for this storm. It needs to be done a little bit earlier than that. We're giving best guess. Again, whether it's 2 inches or 6 inches, really doesn't matter a whole lot. The impact is going to be the same. We like to focus on numbers and see, well, how far off were we? You said 2 and it got 4. Well, I'm sorry. Did that make your snowman twice as tall, or are you still out of school for the day? So that's kind of how that goes, and that's why we start talking about these things that far in advance. And the questioner caveated that with, I meant near the East Coast storm. East Coast storm, when you're talking about their threshold is a little, their ability to cope is at a little higher threshold, and so 4 to 6 inches they can handle in those areas much better, obviously, than we can here. When you're talking about 2 to 3 feet of snow, at that point it's just people's reading models and wanting to be the first to report some of that. And of course, on the East Coast storms, you have the huge media conglomerates from DC up to New York City. It's the media capital of the world, and so nothing will go unknown. Somebody is going to tweet it, post it, talk about it, blog about it, or put it on nightly news. So that's kind of why it works the way up there. I can't show my graphic, but I do have one more graphic just to talk about a few things related to preparedness, and then we're going to wrap this up. And man, I wish I could share this. Let me try one more time on screen share. It doesn't know anything about it. Okay. So if you will, I believe it's in my blog. In fact, you'll find in the blog our winter weather preparedness tips. And maybe while I'm talking through this, John, if you're able to pull up the blog, maybe you could just click on the image and screen share it. But we'll talk about a few of these. Basically, the winter storm watches are issued due to impacts to winter storms that are possible, and it is a preparation time. They're usually issued 36 to 48 hours in advance. That's the time frame we're in now. Winter storm warnings will be issued when we get within 24 hours of the event, and those indicate a significant impact due to snow or ice that is imminent or occurring. So when we get within 24 hours, there it is. Thank you, John. Then we will go into that winter storm warning. Now, one thing to mention here: if an area is expected to get, the winter storm warning criteria is 3 inches of snow here in the Memphis area. So if we're expected to get maybe just an inch out of this, the Weather Service will, instead of going to a winter storm warning, will go to a winter weather advisory. In a winter weather advisory is not a downgrade from a watch. A watch means the timing is farther out in advance. We can, from a watch, go to either an advisory or warning. They are both an upgrade. They both indicate that we are going to have impactful type weather within 24 hours. It's just that an advisory is a lower impact, minor impacts due to snow or ice, and caution is advised. So we're talking about the lighter freezing rain or a little sleet, maybe up to an inch or maybe a couple of inches over a 6-hour period or so of snow. If we're expecting basically about 3 inches or more or significant impacts, then they will go to a winter storm warning. So either one of those could come out tomorrow morning, and it may be different for different areas depending on what the Weather Service thinks the amounts and impact are going to be. You'll see the things to have ahead of time. These are things to be thinking about tomorrow, especially with the wind the way it's going to be. If we start getting some power outages, then you're going to want to think about some of these, especially flashlights, radios, NOAA weather radios, extra batteries. It's always a good idea in a winter storm type situation to have a couple of days worth of food and water. So if you haven't gone to any of the local stores that sell these types of items, I'm not going to name any because don't have stock in any, and I don't want anybody to think I'm plugging anyone in particular. But your milk sandwiches, you might want to go ahead and think about that perhaps, but don't buy them out. We're not going to be stuck indoors for a week. Certainly warm clothing, sturdy shoes, extra blankets and sleeping bags. If the power goes out, it is going to be cold. It's going to get down to around 20, 22 on Saturday morning with snow still on the ground if this comes down with a couple inches. So it will be cold. And certainly some other items there to just have handy in case you need it. Keep those cell phones charged, especially as we head into Friday morning. If you charge your cell phone overnight, it should be in good shape Friday morning, but make sure that you keep a charger around and kind of keep that thing plugged up just in case you lose power. You certainly want to be able to check the latest radar on your MWN app and get your watches and warnings and so forth. Check the Twitter feed there and so forth. Remind you to don't forget about your pets and your pipes. So if you have exterior pipes, perhaps I don't know that we'll get quite cold enough to have to worry about that, but 20 degrees on Saturday morning might be something. If you are prone to potential for non-insulated pipes on an exterior wall, you're going to want to make sure those are taken care of. And your pets, don't leave their water bowls out and expect them to be able to drink out of them after the temperature drops below freezing. It's pretty common sense, but you'd be surprised sometimes people forget about those kind of things. Those pets need to be taken care of as well. We've talked about the impacts and what weather's expected where and when, so hopefully you've got that information. If not, check the blog.MemphisWeather.net, and get that. And then make sure that you're following trusted sources of weather information. Certainly with the Weather Service, most of the local media outlets obviously are very good as well. You can stick with us. We'll provide the latest updates. Have your NOAA weather radio ready if you have one of those, or your apps to get any warning upgrades and so forth. And just be careful about those that take the latest model run that has the excessive snow and post it and say, this is what we're going to get, because a lot of times if they don't provide some context to it, it's not necessarily worth looking at. What else do you guys have? I'll check for a couple more questions here if there are any.
Well, the OZGFS is now in through 45 hours.
That would take us through the event. Oh, is that it?
Mm-hmm. That's the total snowfall.
Wow. I'm seeing this as you guys are. Impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. You said in the chat that's kind of where it was earlier today. I think the 12Z run, that's almost a spitting image of it, and then it went the 18Z. It went, I think, further east, and now it's back to its original. Well, I say original, but its position.
It's back to the west. Yeah, there's the 12Z run from this morning.
Yep.
So there's 2 out of 3 that have the deformation zone basically parked along the Mississippi River and up into up I-40 there.
Yeah, and I think one thing real quick that people, and we've talked about this with models before, is we don't necessarily look at models for what's exactly going to happen. We're looking for trends, and that's a definite trend that the models have all picked up on. So that increases the confidence. One other just real quick thing, Daniel and I were joking earlier today. You've got a group of people out there that say it never snows in Memphis. We never get anything. For some reason, I can't
Never.
for some reason I can't even remember it. But March 4th and 5th last year would beg to differ that we never get anything. So just be leery of that, and be leery of the it's only 3 inches of snow. That's not a real snow. I heard that from somebody earlier today. That's not really snow. That's a lot of snow for us. That's a pretty substantial storm. What's our average per year snowfall?
It's an upper 3 range,
Yeah.
3.8 I think.
So
this is basically a season snowfall in one event.
Yeah. So
for us, which is not the average snowfall total for the year here is a little bit misleading, just because the number is so small. I mean, basically what we end up getting is every other year we may get or every couple of years a 3 or 4 inch event, and the other years we get an inch and a half, and it tends to round out to in the upper 3 range. So you basically you put together 2 events in one season that have this type of totals, and you've doubled your yearly total. So again, you're dealing with fairly small numbers there that are just a couple of a storm here or there from either being way below or way above.
Hey, Eric, real quick, we talked about the Northeast, but do you want to touch on folks that may be traveling to over to Little Rock? I've had people ask me, Little Rock, how's the trip to Nashville going to be to or from Nashville on Friday? Southwest Tennessee has 2 basketball games scheduled here at home with Roane and Walters State, who are over in Morristown and Harriman, and they would be traveling this way. So do you want to address maybe how you think if you have to go to Nashville and you cannot get out of going, when do you think someone would need to be in Nashville and be prepared to stay for a couple of days?
Yeah, wow. After dawn on Friday is really going to be difficult given the models that we're looking at. And I know Nashville is expecting some accumulating snow over there as well during the day on Friday. It's going to be very difficult to get back and forth between here and Nashville. I don't know if any of our senators or illustrious representatives are watching, but you may want to stay put one way or the other between here and there. So I would say, if you need to get over there, you need to do it tomorrow night, and then just plan to stick around or get back. Tomorrow night is the time to do it. There will be obviously some plowing, if necessary, done on the interstates. There'll be salting that is done. The interstates will be the first things that are hit. And I know TDOT is as prepared as they can be for a Southern State Department of Transportation, but that could be difficult. Going to Little Rock really is that's an interesting one because some of these models again are showing kind of the back edge of that heavier snow along the Mississippi River and east, which would mean going west might not be that big a deal. Some of these more recent runs we're looking at show some heavy snow over eastern Arkansas as well. So you could definitely have some problems, and they will start earlier during the overnight hours Thursday night. They will start switching over earlier to the west. So the snow will be moving out of there earlier on the day during the day Friday, But if they get a couple of inches, then it's already going to be on the roads. The temperatures will be falling. The wind will be blowing the snow all over the place. I would just recommend if you do not have to travel on Friday, or you can change your plans, do so. Or if you're not ready to do it now, check in again tomorrow midday and make that decision.
When will we see? Should we get 3, 4, 5 inches? When do you think we'll start to see improvement on the roadways around here?
Well, our forecast right now is not looking good for Saturday as far as temperatures are concerned. I do think that we'll be getting sun coming out Saturday, so that's definitely going to help. But if we've got snow cover on the ground and starting off in the lower 20s, there'll still be some wind blowing. And so right now, based on a forecast of some snow on the ground, I've only got a high on Saturday in the lower 30s. However, with some sun coming down on that, the roadways should improve. Certainly by Saturday afternoon, especially the primary roads. Secondary roads may take a little longer, especially if they're in the shade. Sunday, we should be back into the 40s, although it'll freeze again Saturday night. So I think Sunday definitely would be much better. But it's going to all depend on exactly how much we get and how much sun we get Saturday and so forth. But by Saturday afternoon, a lot of places should be a lot better. All right, I don't think I'm seeing any other questions coming in, so I'm going to wrap this up just by saying that you need to stay tuned. Don't take this forecast or this video chat here and run with it for Saturday morning and say, well, we don't get 4 inches. These guys were wrong, because it probably will change a little bit tomorrow. Stay with us. We are going to continue to update our social media feeds on Twitter and Facebook. We will have another blog tomorrow, perhaps in the morning, but more certainly by afternoon should have another blog up. I'm going to tentatively plan, hopefully, to do another one of these Hangouts tomorrow night. We'll do same time, 9 p.m. We should have a pretty good idea then, hopefully, of at least the range of snowfall totals for the area. Maybe we won't go quite as long as this, but at least provide an update tomorrow night. So check back in then, and then just stay with us on Friday morning. We'll continue to keep you updated. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, and hopefully we'll all emerge out of this without anybody screaming about either the pyramid or I-40 or maybe 5 or 6 snowmen in the front yard. Who knows? Somewhere in between. Any closing comments, guys?
Snow MG.
Go.
I think people just need to, as you said, be prepared and realize that by Sunday afternoon we're going to be in the 40s, and this will hopefully be kind of a lower impact event. Being on a Friday, it'd be better if it were on a Saturday, but everybody just needs to be prepared. And we're going to have, with the wind, we get snow here, but I spent a year in Chicago, so this is what we call Tuesday up there. But we're not usually ones to get the snow with the 20, 25 mile an hour wind. That's going to make driving a real challenge with high snowfall rates and wind blowing that snow around. So if you have to get out Friday morning, like my wife does, she is a nurse, she has to be at work at 7 a.m. Friday, just take it slow, lots of extra time. Four-wheel drive just means 4 wheels to flip over into the ditch if you're going too fast. So, just everybody slow down, take it easy, and leave plenty of room. All the usual stuff that works even on sunny days around here. Just plenty of room between you and the guy in front of you. Nobody's going to be in a hurry on Friday to get anywhere, and if you are, you're not going to get there in one piece. So, just slow down if you have to be out. If you can avoid it, probably a good idea to not travel Friday unless you absolutely have to.
All right. And with that, we're going to close out for this evening. Thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. We will go ahead and pencil in tomorrow night to get the latest update. Check for the blog tomorrow. And appreciate Daniel and John joining again tonight. Insight's always helpful. So thanks so much, guys. And we will talk to everybody again tomorrow. Have a good night.